January 2nd, Thursday, 2025. I had that wrong on the agenda. Neighborhood Restoration Beautification Commission. We'll start with call to order. And I will do that today since Mary Kay's not here right now. Lucas Richardson is here. Jermaine Sullivan is not here. She is now, her spot has been taken by Councilmember Lasky. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Lasky, are you here?
I'm here.
Kathleen Grabowski.
Here.
Sarah Harless.
Here.
Jess Stallings.
Here.
Mary Kay Wilkosh is absent, and Kayla Willem.
Here.
All right. We'll start with public comment on agenda-related items. Is there any public comment? Approval of the agenda. I would like this, like to take the time right now before we approve the agenda to say the reason I put the NRBC elections on is two-part. One, obviously, Jermaine was our vice chair, and two, I wanted to tell everybody that my term ends in April this year, and after discussing with my family, I'm gonna probably not put in again after my term ends. So I figured that we would have a few month overlap where I could help out whoever gets nominated as chair. So there's a good transition. So
And that has to be a business person?
it does not have to be a business
That's what-
person, I don't think. I think it has to be, well, I guess that's a question for, since the city manager's here, maybe we can ask.
We
Bill.
have the bylaws pulled up here, and the chair doesn't have to be that necessarily, but there are some
Right.
requirements of commission members. So we can get to it unless I passed already.
No,
I think
was-
the service organization
Yeah.
or volunteer organization, so it doesn't have to be the chair necessarily.
I
Just give
wasn't
me-
sure if that had to do with just the establishment of the commission or if it was just ongoing.
So if you look at section, I've got it here, section 3, let's see here, at least one member of the commission should be representative from a local active service club organization, JC's, Lion Club, Habitat for Humanity, et cetera. So that's in the bylaws.
If you have officers and chair, it doesn't look like there's a specific requirement for the chair.
Back up. Stop.
The chair shall just be any acting member of that's authorized by the commission. So when that gets advertised, that unless someone else on this commission right now is a part of any other local service groups, that the city clerk will have to advertise it like that, right?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
With Mary Kay?
I'm not sure. She
I
might.
know, I feel like she is, but I'm just making it up. Yeah.
So anyway, with that, I'll take a motion of approving the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second that.
Motion and a second from Jess. Approval of the meeting minutes from the December 2nd meeting. I'll make a motion to approve those minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And then all in favor voice vote to approve. Aye?
Aye.
All against? Okay, and usually we'd skip over this, just we keep it on the agenda, but since, Liz, you're new here, I wanted to go through this. Our purpose statement bylaws here is to identify, research, and recommend opportunities and resources to help prevent, remediate, and eliminate blight from the city of Manistee. And it's also to identify and research, recommend opportunities and resources to help beautify the city of Manistee. So I know there's been some misconception over the years of our commission that we're the ones that are addressing these things, but we're trying to research and, different ways and recommend for policy and beautification and blight, or for beautification and blight. With that, I guess we'll move on to 2025 elections. First election would be for the chair. I'd like to nominate Sarah Harless to be the chair. Any other nominations?
Discussion about this?
Is there a second?
Second.
If she wants. If she has time. I mean, it's fine, but there are other people
Can
have
make
been
it-
on the commission
yeah.
longer.
Anybody else is free to make any nominations, and we can vote.
You've got a motion and a second. I think you'll need a roll call.
Yeah. Is there any more nominations? All right, roll call, Sarah Harless,
Yes.
Kayla Willem,
Yes.
Lucas Richardson, yes. Liz Lasky.
Yes.
Kathy Grabowski.
Yes.
Jess Stallings.
Yes.
All right, and for vice chair, is there any nominations? Nobody wants to make any nominations?
I'll nominate Liz.
I'm too new, and
Okay.
I wouldn't be good right yet.
I think Mary Kay.
Mary Kay, you're making a motion. Okay, I'll second Mary Kay. Any other nominations? All right, roll call, Sarah Harless,
Yes.
Kayla Willem,
Yes.
Lucas Richardson, yes. Liz Lasky.
Yes.
Kathy Grabowski.
Yes.
Jess Stallings.
Yes.
Motion passed.
That's Mary Kay.
Yep, for Mary Kay. And for secretary?
So remember, we need the secretary to actually take the notes at the meeting because we are having Mary do it, but with
Yeah.
the meeting time change.
Yeah, to be clear, just if I may read the duties of the secretary, execute documents in the name of the commission as authorized by the commission, be responsible for minutes of each meeting and shall have them appropriately distributed, keep attendance records and shall notify the city manager in writing whenever any member of the commission has 3 consecutive unexcused absences from regularly scheduled meetings, and perform such other duties as the commission may determine.
Any volunteers?
Jess?
As much as I would love to, I don't have time.
Okay.
What about you, Liz?
I can't. I got on too many committees right now.
Okay, I'm gonna nominate Kayla Willem. Is there a second?
I second that.
All right, roll call, Sarah Harless.
Yes.
Kayla Willem,
Yes.
Lucas Richardson, yes. Liz Lasky.
Yes.
Kathy Grabowski,
Yes.
Jess Stallings.
Yes.
And Kayla, if you want, I can arrange a meeting between you and Mary Dilworth. Most of the stuff that's sent out to members, she can send it out, so it's not as labor intensive as it might seem, so.
Sounds good.
Yep. Okay, I can carry out the remainder of
That'd be
this
great.
agenda, since I prepared it, so. All right, moving on to unfinished business. Mural process, we've had this on here for a while, but I know Bill's working with the city attorney on trying to get us some documents so that way we can review and hopefully take care of not only the wall that we have half painted right now and also future murals if we want. So that's the update on that. Is there any more, I guess, questions or discussion on murals right now?
Did we get some mural processes from other cities, or are we, in which cities?
So Lucas did send to the previous city attorney, Grand Rapids has a mural process. I did talk with our new city attorney, Blake Conklin, about this, and I called him today as well. So he is working on kind of recommendations from other cities, but I think it could be a general policy where there's a distinction between private property murals, obviously that'd be covered by zoning, but then the public-private partnership that this committee's been working on, that's where we're gonna kind of define the process for, but making sure we are cognizant about not spending any public funds on private property, but we can have donations. And so I think, I'm hopeful, I talked with Blake, so he's working on it, so we should have something for the next meeting. I know this is taking a while, but
Appreciate it.
appreciate your patience. But
The other thing too to add was, is there's, I think, a little bit of mural information in the historic district. Is that an ordinance or?
It's guidelines, so.
Guidelines.
Yeah, so
So we want to try to match some of that too, so.
it's coordinating that, absolutely.
So I'm gonna go back to this because I ask this every time we talk about this. And I know it annoys you, but it's okay.
That doesn't annoy me.
I just am not understanding why we're getting involved with the mural. I know we're specifically talking about the wall down First Street. That's private property, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think anybody's surveyed it, but that's the thought.
So what is our involvement and why?
Well, we started that mural, I don't know, a year and a half ago now. And I think it has been most of the consensus that we just want to finish it since we were a part of it from the beginning and just finish it out, finish painting the rest of it with something. You know, there's been several ideas that have been talked about over the time, but.
So that, just so I'm clear, that private citizen could go through zoning to do this without us.
Yeah, they haven't asked us anything, they've provided us the opportunity to paint a mural to beautify that area. You know, gave us permission to do that as well, if it is owned by them.
And do we have ideas for this mural? I feel like, Jess, you had a contact with somebody, but
Yep, he never got back to anybody, I think, after the second time. And Jermaine just wanted basically Manistee written across it.
so would this be something that once we have ordinances for, or whatever, that like, would we put it out there? Would that be something our committee could do, is put out? Like, I'm just trying to figure out like what our role in this is and how we can be like active in this process.
Right.
So could we put something out there, almost make it like a contest or something where somebody could submit ideas? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I guess I'm just throwing that out there right now to kind of get ahead of like, what is our involvement and why do we keep spending time on this if.
I think our goal is to complete the project rather than have it partially complete and have some bad air still that's there. And so I think, I mean, I'm speaking for everybody, but if we're open to different ideas of it, I think we're still planning that. I think we just didn't want to move forward without having some backbone with our procedure and if it's an ordinance or whatever, and have city council and the rest of the city staff on our side.
So could it be a goal? Again, I realize you have to work with people. It doesn't just happen, but like this could be something that could be done this summer? Like we could have language in place so that this summer we could actually have artists out there working on it, or leading up to the summer?
I love that goal.
Just understand that whatever ordinance this committee comes up with, the city attorney needs to be recommended to city council. Ultimately, city council has to approve that. But it really is what this group's vision of what their involvement in the murals is, and I think that's up to the decision for the group. Do we want to get in the business of murals? If the answer is yes, how much and where do we fit? I think that's kind of a decision needs to be made by the commission.
Well, I think that's why I'm asking the questions I'm asking, is because I'm just trying to figure out, it's been on our agenda every month, but we're not making any progress with it.
Right.
And I realize that's, again, the legalities and those things. But when this comes to fruition, which it sounds like maybe sooner than later, what is our role in that going to be? Like, how do we say, we're the NRBC, this is, this is our purpose for the city, and this is one thing that we're doing. Like I said, do we put it out there and say, hey, anybody that wants to submit their ideas, like our committee's gonna vote on it, we're gonna obviously run it by the manager, city council, whoever, to get all the approval, but like, is that something we want to do? Like, how do we,
I think
like,
we've struggled for the whole time this commission's been existing to advertise ourselves. So I think
Correct.
it's a great opportunity
Yeah.
to get our word out there and say, hey, this is something that the NRBC wants to do for the community. We got all the permissions in place. Submit your ideas. I think that's a great idea. I also had an idea a while ago of maybe you pick a number or you donate a number, and then you just go paint that one area, and they, that you can hire an artist to actually make a cool, whatever it is, if it's Manistee or whatever, and all you do is that one person paints this one type of color in that spot, and you just do that for the whole thing, and then as people volunteer and paint their spot, then it becomes something that could be something too. I know what the artist submitted was something with Darth Vader and some historic stuff. I know there's a little bit more trademark type.
well, and I'm
issues with
assuming
that.
anything would have to be, like, anything, say we voted on something, then it would have to be submitted for the lawyers and stuff to look at for,
Yeah, we don't want what we
Yeah.
paint on the mural to get painted over.
yeah.
And I guess if I may, I think that's the big thing is I think knowing what happened in the past is an original work is a copyrighted, and Disney's notorious for going after. So I don't think like the Darth Vader, it's a great idea, but I do think that's kind of one of the safeguards would be, is it an original work? I think that has to be the criteria, is that it cannot be some copyrighted, something that would open us up to some sort of lawsuit. So that's a big part of this process. But the NRBC did identify this as an opportunity area, that First Street one, wall, and I think it will be a good thing. I don't think it has to be too complicated. A lot of cities like Miami, they have an arts board, but I could see this committee taking in applications, set a date, see if you like something, is it original, just a couple items, and I think you had a checklist, but I think, and then this is what we'd like to do, and then it could be, move forward, would be the idea.
Opening it up to like the local schools would be cool too.
Well, that's what I'm saying, if we just put it out, advertise it out there as like a thing that anyone could submit, and we could send it out to the schools.
I think we want to be real careful that it isn't blight, that.
Yes,
That we're not advertising blight, that murals last forever. A good, well-done mural, when you look at them, they will last 50 to 100 years. And it's very hard to do one long and narrow without it looking like a bunch of little homecoming window paintings.
Yeah.
There's got to be some,
Cohesive.
and that some continuity to it. And you're driving by there, usually they're on a big side of the building and they're more vertical. This one's completely horizontal. It's going to be a hard one to pull off completely. And a lot of them are kind of subdued that, Charlevoix has good ones, Ludington has some good ones, Milwaukee has a whole corridor of nothing but murals. And a lot of towns, it's kind of who does it. And there are mural artists. It isn't the same as just a normal
and that's why I
artist.
think, like, again, if you open it up, have people submit it, we look at it and pick is.
Yeah, I think just
More
going out
select.
there after we get the process and painting Manistee isn't what we want. We've spent so much time on this, so we gotta think about it once we get the process. Maybe it's not even painting, maybe it's some sort of other artwork, like down on First Street, where those walls, they have those metal fish, and I know we got that theme going with that walkway that's down there now. I mean, maybe it's something like that too, so, and that would have a little bit more of a permanent vibe to it. And the
Yeah.
Homecoming panels, that was a
So
good.
maybe as we get more clear guidelines, once you get more clear guidelines as a committee, we can kind of come up with some goals of what we'd want that to represent, how we'd want that to represent Manistee. I think that's what I'm hearing from you, Liz.
Yes, exactly.
How we want that to
Sometimes
represent.
nothing is better than something done poorly.
Yes, so we can kind of come up with some criteria and guidelines
Yeah, that's true.
before we pump it out to the public. So maybe that would be something on our agendas to come up, our upcoming agendas that would make sense of moving forward with this. Okay.
I was, at the visitor center one day and I talked to that Sherry P., whatever her name is.
Protashevitz?
Yeah. And her sister, Anna, is like a really good artist. And I just ran it by her. And I just asked her, you know, I said, would Anna be interested in doing something with our mural? And she says, oh, I'm sure she would. And I'm wondering if maybe if you want it all to be same, or how did you say that? Not a whole bunch of.
Cohesive.
Yeah, not just jointed paintings.
You could ask somebody like her, and maybe she'd wanted to do the whole thing instead of getting a whole bunch of ideas. And then we only have to ask one person, where did you get this idea from? Because if they got it from a book or they got it from a postcard or something, you're right back where you started from.
I don't think we should limit ourselves to one person, though. I think there's many artists out there that
Right.
could submit things to us.
But if you wanted
We
to,
already there's already one chunk of that wall right now that's not gonna be cohesive with whatever comes up.
Right, and who's to say we?
But do we have
I
to
mean,
leave
we
that?
Yeah, we might not have to
I don't
keep-
know. I don't wanna
I
get
don't know
involved in
that.
that.
I don't know.
Right.
And just a thought with the, having amateurs submit, a concept, I think that's great. I think you'd probably want a professional artist, if you're gonna have amateurs submit that, maybe actually do it. And if that person gives, permission to use their art, maybe that's part of the process. And it involve the community, but you'd also have it, to Liz's point, done professionally and last a long time.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about in the past too, just like that one panel, maybe they are 1 year things and then they get redone and it's like I don't know, it's a lot of work, I understand that, but I mean, maybe it's an opportunity to just keep getting something new in there every few years, I don't know. It's an option too. There's a lot of options that we're not talking about.
I know, it's hard enough getting one up
yeah,
Yeah.
let's leave
Yeah,
it,
like the
let's leave it forever.
And that's what was presented.
Total pattern or something, like
Right.
that.
Well, I like how the cities have like their name with all the different little things in it, but the outsider has that.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that came from, or I'm sure you could do Manistee with different things in different spots and it wouldn't be, but if you go to a lot of big cities, they have that.
Yes.
And that would fit nicely going down that wall, actually.
Trevor's has that
Right.
on one
The,
wall.
the other complicated thing about this specifically is if it is private owned, how do we pay for that professional artist, right, to do that? So we'd have to find out some sort of fundraising or
Well, because Anna's
grant.
from Manistee and Sherry's involved with the visitor center, it didn't sound like we'd have to pay her an arm and a leg.
Yeah, so
We
those
can't pay
those conversations have to happen is my
Yeah,
point.
I don't think like she's a professional artist, but I don't think it's gonna cost us a lot of money.
Well, we can't pay anything.
We
for it.
can't pay any.
That's
I
my
think the
point.
biggest thing is getting the city attorney on board to have an objective process. Once we have that process, then decisions can be made to what it looks like, what's the project gonna look like, but the biggest thing is the process, the parameters, and okay, now that we know this is how we're gonna do a project and how we're gonna select someone, now let's have these conversations. I almost wonder if we are getting the cart a little bit ahead of the horse. So let's see how that plays out and get that process solidified, then figure out what kind of program or how we wanna make this interactive to the community. I think that's probably the best way to, just my 2 cents.
I think this is the most ideas we've had in like a year, so that's good discussion anyway, so. Is it anything else on murals? All right, so this next item here, master plan / recommendations, whatever we want to call it here, but we've been building up this list over this past year. Think some things got taken off in past meetings and some things weren't really coming from the NRBC. They're more so city staff type items, so I took those off. But if we want to take a minute to, I guess, read through this one last time, and my goal was to present this to city manager so we can share it with city council and share what our vision is and our goals are for this year, or upcoming years at least.
Lucas, did you plan on covering this in your annual presentation to council as well?
I was going to just touch on the fact that we have them to present to them, and then I don't need to go through the whole list in the meeting, but they can ask the questions ahead of time, maybe, city council.
I have can I?
Yeah.
Okay, the continuing maintaining the city entrance sign vegetation so it doesn't become overgrown. I'm gonna ask, I mean, I don't know if anyone has the answer, but I don't know why that's our responsibility. I feel like, especially in the summer, DPW has summer students and things like that. I just feel like that is something that, I mean, you and I did it in an hour. I think it could be done by DPW. I don't, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I think that's a question for Bill.
Yeah, it can, and other communities, the Beautification Committee did it, but they took pride in, but it is kind of setting your priorities. I mean, that is something, weeding is something they can do, that's true. But if this committee wanted to do additional plantings or weeding seems like kind of a mundane issue,
So in other communities, this committee does do the weeding?
A Beautification Committee, but they typically plant flowers and do kind of more around the entrance sign. If we're just talking about weeding, yeah, I don't see necessarily, that's more of a maintenance item. But
And we struggle to get our volunteers to show up on our events, I mean, that's.
Yeah.
And I know, I had talked to Bill about this a while ago, about, right now there is no like weed barrier or anything down, so I don't know if there's maybe some modification that might need to be made before, constantly weeding it. I don't know if it's some sort of mulch or something that gets put down every year, but.
put that fabric around and have, just so, and we'd still find a way sometimes, but
They
it's, the fabric would help.
It was bad. I mean, after a month, once
Yeah.
we went, there's a lot. We filled like 10 bags.
Yeah, and I'm not above weeding. I mean, if we had a schedule between all of us, like every month,
Yeah.
if 2 of us took one sign and 2 of us took another sign, I'm happy to do it. I was just curious.
I think that was just on the list because our commission donated our budget to help pay for the vegetation on those signs. So, I'm open to making any changes to this before we, vote on it or whatever, but I just wanted to make sure we all had consensus on it before we presented it. Would you prefer that is not on the list, Sarah?
I would like it to say continue maintaining the city entrance sign with DPW. But again, I don't know if that's a responsibility of theirs or not.
Okay.
And then, like I said, maybe once it gets closer to spring and summer, we can look at setting up a schedule so we all can go weed a sign once a month. It's not that many months. But then we know it will get one good weeding every month, and maybe when they're down there watering or something, if they see stuff popping up.
Yeah, I
pull
don't
it.
think it's gonna attract the random volunteers that Blossom Boulevard does. People
No.
aren't gonna just randomly go to the city entrance sign, I don't think, to do that. See a lot of notes. You got any ideas?
I think wait and see how much weeds there are and stuff on that part.
So the previous signs didn't have any plantings around them, at least.
Stones.
Yeah, so I think, it's a new item, whether or not this committee wants to take that on or DPW, it's just something we need to figure out, but,
Yeah, it's something totally new for the city, right?
Where are you thinking of the trees along the US 31 corridor?
So we know that MDOT's narrowing the road
Okay.
through town, and we've talked about trying to beautify that corridor from like 8th Street to First Street for a while. We had ideas about banners. I pitched maybe some sort of dune grass or something, or plantings, but that was not what everybody else agreed. So we also talked about trees. And I think some of the, blight that exists on US 31 would probably get a little shielded if we had some sort of tree corridor, and we'd probably want to recommend some sort of trees that don't have a whole lot of maintenance for DPW, because there are no trees right now in that area that leaf pickup and plows and all that stuff it would be a new thing there. We don't want to make DPW's job harder. But it was an idea to beautify. Yeah, and there'll be room now because they're gonna narrow it up. And we'd probably want to collaborate with the tree commission on that, for sure.
I wasn't here the last meeting.
Chief, did you have anything when you saw this?
All the notes I had, I gave to you, I think months ago when we had that. I don't have anything additional.
Okay.
Just looking through it right now.
Lucas, on the banners, were we going to consider from 8th Street down?
Straight down.
Remember when we walked the highway?
Yep.
Were we going to consider, like, on some round of banners going from 8th Street instead? Right now we have from 3rd Street to River Street, which is the banners I think that we have purchased right now. Maybe. But
Yeah.
in some round, were we going to consider?
I thought when we talked about it, we were deferring back to something different, like trees or something.
Okay.
Because I thought it was just too many.
Well, and we weren't sure what was gonna happen with all the light poles once the highway.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll have to.
And that was where I think most of the worst looking ones,
Yeah.
smaller ones, were south of 3rd.
We can revisit it after 2027.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I know this is adding more expense to it, but like Interlochen has those really nice banners that have their own poles, like that would be really cool, I think. Every here and there, not, 50 of them, but,
Right.
but I think the idea of us having the city banners, I don't think you've seen those, Liz, I can show you a picture. So you know what we're talking about. So we have banners like that already purchased, and we're waiting for
Oh, okay.
some correspondence with consumers to hang a few of them up. And then also, we have the same banner but different colors with the police department logo that we're gonna put a couple here right by the city hall.
Good.
So that first item on that plan was to try to adopt more of those banners throughout town. They're just a little bit pricey, so it'll have to come over a period of time unless donations or city council wants to put more money towards it.
I see on this list, Lucas says revise the blight ordinance or provide more enforcement to eliminate blight. Was there specifics attached to that?
I think that was to go along with we always call it like the teeth, trying to have more teeth on actually getting blight enforcement to do what everybody else thinks is easy, to actually address the issue. So I know the previous city attorney had different opinions, right, on the blight ordinance, and I think we wanted to revisit that.
Yeah, his opinions were more as far as cost recovery geared, but sure. I think Toby Van Ness will probably talk a little bit today about the court process and some of the challenges there, and so.
Maybe it's continue to review blight ordinance rather than revise.
Sure.
Okay.
And the vacant building ordinance, that's about vacant building registration. That's what that refers to. Is that correct?
That was something that Chief brought up a few meetings ago about, we didn't really have a vacant building ordinance, but you had said something might be covered in the property maintenance code.
And this was something that came up last year, 2 years ago, when we had Safe Built, and the individual, Kevin, I can't remember his last, Kriebel, he mentioned that the city of Muskegon has ordinances that limit or prohibit building sitting vacant. And so I've asked our building official to look to see if that's already built into the property maintenance code, if it's a moot point or not. So I believe he's looking into that. I don't know if this group has the appetite to tackle that, to recommend to council or not.
I
With
just
that
know that over the years that, this is a good thing that we brought this up, because over the years, I think everybody's discussion of vacant buildings on River Street pretty much formed this commission. I mean, I think those conversations started it.
And I don't know how,
They're still there vacant.
in this scenario where the city, let's say the city adopted a vacant building, how that would interact with the DDA and the historical district. It might be a little cumbersome. I'm not sure how that would interact. But again, it was just asking questions, doing research, and I think that's where we're at right now, to see, is there a best practice out there? Is it already covered in the property maintenance code? And that's where we're at with that.
Yeah, some communities they require vacant properties to be registered, and that kind of gets them on a list. They can check that if they're boarded up or not. There's a fee, and it kind of makes it so that there's an incentive to kind of get it off at least they're paying some money to keep it vacant, and they're incentivized to get someone in there, potentially, like some property owners that are not inclined to move.
I can't imagine the DDA would not want to do that. It seems like something that they would want to do.
So,
Yeah.
so just as a question, so say there was an ordinance. I mean, this goes back to, when you talk about Airbnbs and all these other things, if you don't get people to register their building being a vacant building, how do we know that they're a vacant
The
building?
question is, how do you can have a great ordinance.
Yeah,
Kind of like
yeah.
a policy, but how do you enforce it?
Yeah,
Do you have
yeah.
do you have the staff, the manpower to enforce it? So that's the other side of the coin, right?
Yeah.
So,
But isn't that a situation already? Like when police or Toby goes to enforce blight at that place, could that be a time to where?
Oh. At least you
it could
catch
be,
it then.
but we're talking about making sure in this hypothetical scenario that abandoned structures have registered as abandoned or vacant, and so that could be some challenge. That certainly have challenges. Our rental inspection registration, there's challenges there. It's a high volume of work. So again, it's a matter of what does this group have an appetite to pursue, and what do we recommend to city council? And do you differentiate between buildings or residences, or do you just say structures? So those are questions. So I'm waiting to hear back from Jerry Blue to see if there's anything in the property maintenance code, and then check back in with this group to see if there's still an appetite to move forward on something.
And your last comment there kind of applies to the weeds as well. I know we have businesses that may or may not be needed to be held at a different standard than residences for noxious weeds. We've talked about that in the past, and I know from looking at the C-Click Fix stuff, there's a lot of recurring businesses, so if that.
And our
needs to be
ordinance
different-
doesn't differentiate between private or business. I think it's a parcel, so I think that ordinance can be applied across the board, it would seem like.
But maybe it needs to be altered to be different if it's a private or a business. If we're trying to encourage people to go to downtown and come to Manistee.
Does the DDA have any language about vacant buildings or anything like that anyone's aware of?
I don't know anything about that.
No, not that I'm aware of.
So that might be something that we could investigate as well, is if they have any.
I think typically these vacant building ordinances, you get people to register, they get added to a cut list for like tall grass, and then you can kind of monitor who doesn't have water usage, and that's kind of a way you can monitor if they are actually vacant or not, and then it can go to court if they don't register. So there's a whole process for this if we determine that's a real problem that we want to address.
Yeah, I think all in all, we're just looking for some sort of recommendation to improve some of these ordinances or add the ordinances to make, you know, the city itself more beautiful and less blighted. Just like Chief said, it's up to city council to adopt anything anyway, right?
But I would, just so there's an ordinance committee, so generally if there's a recommendation from this group to pursue something, I'd bring it to that ordinance committee, which has 3 council members on it, and then they would work with the city attorney, we'd have something to come before council. So there's a path for this.
Do you know if any of this is on there?
We were looking at the noxious weed ordinance, kind of updating that. I think with the transition to the new city attorney, kind of, we have a fresh start with some of these things, but.
Sidewalks, I think we were looking at.
Yep, sidewalk. So I think, yeah, now's the time. If you guys want to pursue one of these or a couple of these, we can bring that forward to the next meeting.
Yeah, I did have sidewalks on here, but I took it off because I was kind of not sure where we left on any of our recommendations. There really was any, or just discussion.
You're talking about snow removal, and it was,
I think the biggest conversation from this group was taking all the different things that applied to sidewalks in different ordinances and condensing them to one sidewalk ordinance, whether it be snow removal or repair of. We had sidewalks in this ordinance and this ordinance and this ordinance, and the consensus from this group was we'll put them all on one sidewalk ordinance. So if our city resident wants to say, I have a question about our sidewalks, they need to go to one ordinance to find the answer for that question. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do you think that's still, yeah, that hasn't been on any city council agenda, so is that still an item that we could recommend, do you think?
yeah, so I think the previous city attorney started drafting something that hasn't been completed, so it needs to come back to the ordinance committee. But yeah, that was in process, I guess is the way I would put it right now.
Okay, so consolidate sidewalk ordinance, or recommends, even if they are starting, or already working on it?
On the new street signs, has there been any problems with, and I didn't notice this, that's not what I'm asking you, but with the weeds growing up where, you know, before they were mounted, so the DPW could just mow or anybody could. Is there any weeds growing up around those signs? I don't know, I haven't noticed that, but I just wonder if that's an issue on those, now that you've got, does someone have to go and weed whack around them, or?
The new entrance signs?
Nope,
No, I'm
sorry.
the street
Street.
signs that have the two,
U-channel.
the
Yep.
two channels
Yep.
going into the ground versus, being mounted on a telephone pole that took no,
I think that's something we can keep an eye on in the spring to see is that could become a problem, maybe to get ahead of it a little bit.
Well, we've had those signs basically in our neighborhood for years.
Yeah, 5-6
It
years now.
just doesn't have this insignia from the city on them. But Cornell, Greenwich, all that, we all had those for about 5 years now. I mean, you can't put your mower through there or drive through there, but we just weed whack around it.
Yeah, no different than like a stop sign
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, well, we have the 2-pole signs for years now.
okay.
But I don't know if we'll get new ones or not. We just don't have that city insignia. But when they did the road or something, they put those up there. And yeah, the weeds will grow in there. But, I don't, like I said, you're gonna have to weed whack around it, like anything in your yard.
Oh, you're quiet. You have
I
anything?
know. The only thing I was kind of thinking is maybe we should look into rentals if possible, like ordinances with rentals.
For
A lot of-
blight, or?
Yeah. So a lot of things that I noticed is a lot of the rentals have out-of-town owners, so they really don't care about the property. If they have a renter move out, there's a lot of stuff that's left there, like mattresses and stuff left outside. So if there's something, you know, if your renter moves out, you need to make sure everything's cleared out.
Well, I know some of that was on that, that draft short-term rental policy, right? I can't remember what the long-term rental.
We do a
has
rental
on it.
inspection. Blight is included, all types of blights on there, so when they do the inspection, they're checking for that. But when it comes, blight is blight, so it doesn't matter if it's short-term, long-term, whatever it might be, so, and we deal with it quite a bit where someone moves out and they put all their crap out on
Yeah.
the road and think it's sufficient, and we go after them for that. So it's included in our rental inspection, and it's in our ordinance. It doesn't matter what type of residence it is for blight enforcement, whether it's single occupied, rental, short-term, long-term. The ordinance doesn't differentiate for obvious reasons, so it's
There
covered.
would be no value in adding a new ordinance about that.
Well, I don't know where you would go with it, because
Right.
it's kind of already covered.
Well, the short-term rental ordinance that was proposed you had to have a local management company if you know, it wasn't your primary residence, and so if it's a rental and you need to have a contact, so I think that's what you're talking about, having a local management company
Yeah.
that could handle a situation like blight.
Do they have to have, would the local management company have to have some sort of like city registration or something?
I think, well, with the short-term rental policy that was proposed, it was basically, that was part of your registration as who is your contact, your local management contact, that the police could contact if there was an issue.
Okay.
So,
And it was just hoping on the fact that business would be a little bit more reliable than trying to chase down one person.
right, who's out of town, that was the idea.
I think the theory is you need to have an in-town, in-county contact for us to address any issues with it, so, which is wise.
Where are we, where's the city at in that process?
So we signed up for this Granicus product, which was gonna let us know. That process has taken a little bit longer than we thought to have set up, but I'm hoping to get a report from them. And then the idea was we were gonna come up with because that last one was, abandoned. So
Yes.
we're looking at what's gonna happen next. But the thought was we'd get that data first and then kind of look at what the current scenario is with short-term rentals, and then that would help guide. Maybe it just ends up being that they have to be registered and there's a registration process, as opposed to, there's also a zoning language that the planning commission was looking into, but yeah, I think we're kind of looking for that data first to help guide the next step with that.
What about, obviously, these policies are great, right? And they'll address most of the issues eventually, most of the time after people complain about the blight or whatever. But what if there is some sort of incentive if they like paid, I don't know, let's just say like $500 for the NRBC to deal with their junk blight in their yard. And then that could go to like whatever it is, but, and then could that come to like our budget to use for, then we would get volunteers to go clean that up, and then some sort of cleanup project, I don't know, it's just an idea.
So it'd be a fund to have, or it could even be a company, right, if you have a fund to do a
Yeah,
cleanup.
or, yeah, if we hired a company to do it, right.
It's possible. I think we typically lean on the court, and right now we're kind of looking at, if they don't clean it up, we're gonna clean it up and you're gonna pay for it. So I think
But if it's ahead of that, is my point, is like it would be.
like an assistance.
Yeah, it would be an
Okay.
assistance thing, so that way they would never even get to that point
Okay.
of blight. They would be able to contact the city and there would be some sort of program.
Okay, so kind of if they have a willingness, hey, I can't handle this for whatever reason, and, okay. I think it could. I think that could,
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Possibility.
I don't know how you'd do that, but just came to me. Every now and again, I have a good idea.
Would it be like a registration fee that if after it's inspected and it's not needed, they get that money back?
Yeah, maybe if we're talking about the rentals, maybe it could be a rental thing, like a security deposit thing.
okay.
Could that be a good way to do
Who
that, you
who would
think?
regulate this, city staff?
Well, it would be, because when you do the rental program, don't you have to pay a fee, right? To get into that for 3 years,
To register your rental,
to
yeah.
register it. And then, you know, there'd be an incentive for those people to get that, I don't know, $500 back. And then if not, then the city would use that $500 to hire someone or get volunteers to clean up the junk blight. Is that realistic?
I think we gotta work through a little more, but I don't think it's out of the question. I think we just need to kind of curve that a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think it's something should be continued to discuss. Just don't know how it would work and who would run it. And I think one of the challenges of blight enforcement we find, and Toby's gonna talk here in a little bit, that people just won't comply. They won't comply. The court could send them a court order, they won't comply. I think that's very unfortunate, but I think we see that a lot. The biggest thing is people arguing what's junk and what's not junk. So, again, Toby, see, that's his job every day, so maybe he can speak more than we can, but there could be an idea in there. I think we just need to work it out and kind of put our hands around it and figure out what we're trying to get at there.
Yeah,
Basically, trying to build a fund or give another resource to people who maybe physically or financially can't get rid of the junk in their yard. Yeah.
We talked about a while ago, like really early in the commission, about having some sort of like NRBC assistance like form to submit, even for just volunteer projects. We talked about that a long time ago, and
Well, we did cleanups. We did some of that.
yeah, but that wasn't from a form. That was from officers just, you know, picking out some candidates with people that needed some assistance, and I think that was successful, but that's not sustainable. That's gonna be a lot of work to just keep.
I think there's some value in this NRBC group putting together like an action team that you need to contact if you can't physically or financially do it, to reach out and say, okay, listen, I can't do this. I need help. I think there's value in that, how that, you know.
It sounds like we could be, again, I don't know what the process looks like, but I'm assuming there's a process. So when someone moves out or whatever, and you guys are doing your checklist, if you continually citate someone and it's going to go to the court, before it goes to the court, we could be a step in there to say, okay, you're not able to do this, but we have this group of volunteers that could. You could submit the form to kind of put a stop on this going to court at the moment. Submit the form, pay the fee, and this group of volunteers would take care of this for you before going to court. And then if they don't follow through on submitting the form and paying the fee, then it goes to court. So it sounds like, yes, this needs to be finessed and talked about a little bit more, but it sounds like we could be a step in the process before the court.
Some sort of public-private partnership, so we can, we could look into that. I think the issue with the fee, the $500 with the rental registration in case they leave a mess, I think they'd have to be held in escrow. I could see that just being a administrative burden to have all these different escrows and applying it. So, but I think the other thing about having a fund to assist with someone who just physically or doesn't have the means to take care of blight but has a willingness, I could see a value in that. I'm sure Toby comes across that quite a bit, but
So where would that fund come from, though?
I think we'd have to explore that, but I think it would be kind of, if you solicited funds for that purpose, it would have to be used for that purpose, but
Like city funds, like a city budgeted item?
no, I think it would be, if people volunteered for that, it would be kind of something set aside for assistance, or blight assistance.
Again, because you're back to the using public funds for private. So that's the hurdle.
That's what I was trying to.
But there's
iron out.
probably just, I think there's an idea in there, just gotta get around the liability, workman's comp of volunteers and the case, so that, I think this group could workshop that.
Is there a problem, because one of the biggest things, and going back to that, the revising the blight ordinance was talking about the teeth, and it had everything to do with getting the money from it, right? And is there a problem in this idea with that same concept, though? I mean, getting the money for,
Well, we wouldn't be using public funds.
No, I know, but enforcing that person to pay a fee for us to clean it up is
They
pretty
would
much
just
the
tell you,
same
they
thing
would just
as,
tell you no.
yeah, right, it's pretty much the same thing as enforcing blight and then paying the court fee, right, which doesn't always happen.
The reality is, the reality about blight eradication is it costs money. And unfortunately, it costs the taxpayers money. If you get a court decision that rules in your favor, it costs money to clean it up. And that is the unfortunate truth of it. It costs money. It costs money for enforcement, and it costs money because we have some residents, quite a few residents, that just refuse, for whatever reason, to clean up blight, regardless of the numerous resources we have for them, provide them. Much more than we had 4 years ago. And we are forced to make a decision, are we gonna spend taxpayer money to have a third-party company come in and clean that? And the answer is that's pretty much how you have to do it, if we can't get compliance.
So,
Because you're not gonna get huge court fines, that's the reality.
so, and again, Toby's been on the job months, so I don't think we have good numbers, but I would be curious to know how much we spend on blight versus how much we could spend on having junk pickup once a year at people's houses. I will come back to that all day long, because I think, as I've said before, it's great that we got the thing going at the Armory now in the spring, but people still do not have the means to get the junk there. That's what this comes down to. People don't have the means to barely get it to the curb, more or less,
That's why it sits in the yard.
down to the Armory. And I would just be curious to know how much we spend on blight in a year versus how much it would cost to do spring pickup.
It is a little bit.
Well, we have monthly pickup.
Well, I know, but remember, we used to have spring pickup?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was glorious.
Boatloads.
I think that was good.
But
Which created blight though, too.
for a short period of time.
Well, just understand that scenario, either or, that scenario assumes that that's gonna impact blight, that people will still put their junk out during that week or whatever it was.
I'd like to put the theory to the test. 1 year.
And then some people, don't think it's junk and they'll pick it up. I've heard stories, and obviously, they'll pick it up and then bring it to their house, and then next year it'll be out and someone will grab it. But, so it leads to some of that too, but,
It's garage sale.
okay.
I'm just kidding.
I do think that's a great service the city provides, is allowing people to bring their bulk items one day, and as opposed to one item a month too, so that was.
Yeah, and in the advertising that the city's increased on that in the last couple of years, I think has helped a lot. You know, before that was kind of a unknown thing. You got it one time on your summer tax bill, and then people forget about it.
But what if you don't have the means to get it there?
We have talked
Maybe.
about that for like
Yeah.
the spring cleanup, if we can make a way to have somebody like go around and bring stuff to it.
Well, and we had originally talked about having a couple dumpsters in a couple different areas, but then that put too. But I agree with you, there's a lot of people I know who don't have a truck, and if you have an old mattress, you need a truck,
Right.
Yeah.
or on top of your car, but is that legal?
Will they get pulled over?
Now if they're getting rid of blight,
Only if the front of your truck's lifted.
Oh, okay.
all right.
Before, sorry.
Lucas,
Before,
I do have to, I'm sorry, I promised my wife I'd do dinner tonight, so if I could I do my item real quick, if you don't?
yeah, let me finish what I was gonna
Sure.
say real quick. About the escrow thing, the challenges about having that. What if it was on your rental application, whatever that's called, there's just a fee, and just that specific fee, if it's $10, $20, whatever it is, from every single rental, just goes into this one budget, and the sole purpose of that is for this purpose of addressing these situations where a landlord just get up and leaves town and leaves all their stuff in the yard. Would that be a better option than the escrow
I think that one would be illegal with the commingling those funds and then using them on one property. That'd be a legal question, but I think with an escrow, it's kind of like it's for your property. If you don't handle it, you get refunded. I think that's probably a little cleaner as opposed to one person taking advantage of that fund because they didn't clean up.
Yeah.
So I think that might be challenging.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess before we move to build, should we make a couple of these revisions from this meeting before we kind of adopt this plan? Or are we ready to kind of adopt this with some of these revisions?
We just adopt it with a few wording revisions.
Okay.
I don't think we need to talk about it again.
Okay. So is that a motion?
I make the motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, voice vote?
Aye.
Aye. All against? All right, we'll skip to Blossom Boulevard, new business.
Thank you, Lucas. So I've been informed by Kendra, who's she's been doing the Blossom Boulevard since 2019, that she's stepping down. So that's the planting of the flowers along US 31. She sent us an email. I sent it to you, Lucas. I don't know if that went out to the rest of the
Yep, we got a
group.
copy.
So flowers are approximately $3,000 a year. The rototilling, $150, and then the watering now the city was covering. The foundation's involved with the fundraising. They have an account where I think they have $2,800 available now. But I know you just kind of, your ideas and recommendations, I think this is on that public right-of-way easement, so I think this is a really good fit with the NRBC. I don't know what the commission's thoughts are, but this is beautification. It's kind of an annual thing that I think, coupled with some of your other great projects, I think this could be a good way to keep this going and institutionalize it too, so it keeps going on. Because I think we do see an issue, I think where volunteers do burn out, but I think, making sure there's recognition is a big point that Councilmember Lasky's pointed out. But I think this is kind of right up the alley of the NRBC, in my opinion. I want to make sure this continues, and just wanted to bring that to the group when she mentioned it, and I thought this would be a good place to talk about.
If this would be a thing that we were to take on, would we still have some of the costs for the watering, or is that now going to be like a city DPW thing?
There's no cost.
I know in the past, though, it had been a cost, so that's just a question, I guess.
I could talk to Mr. Bradford about it, but I don't see that as a challenge either way. If it's, something we recommend to council to budget in the watering for this through the NRBC or not, but.
Is that highway starting in 25? I mean, when will MDOT?
2027.
27.
So we don't have to worry about that. Go ahead with the flowers this year.
Do they put up barriers and block off one lane when people are planting and stuff? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know, but that's a good idea.
I think they put the arrow board out, like, when they're doing the rototilling stuff. I don't know if that's also when they plant, though, is it?
That's a question that we can ask the DPW. They'd be involved. We weren't involved in that.
Kids, and they're all in school, so my mind always goes back to what can the school kids be involved in?
Yeah.
If we were to block off the lane, could we invite first graders this day, second grader, could we get the schools involved in helping?
Didn't the middle school used to do it?
Yeah, when I was in high school, we
It was always
did it
middle
all.
school. They loved it.
And there was no block, but if it makes people feel safer, we could,
It wasn't blocked off.
Yeah, the road would be good.
Replace that too.
The kids loved it.
Yeah.
okay.
Got out of school. They got out of school.
Continue, yeah.
And they learned something.
And that's a great age.
Yes, it is. It's all the middle school kids that were doing it.
Okay.
Maybe schedule it a non-busy time, obviously not during rush hour, but,
But not 5 o'clock? Got it.
right. So maybe a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, so.
So I guess the decision made here, I don't know if it's made today or not, but it's just chew on this to figure out this is something that the NRBC wants to basically take over.
I would say yes, but, we can definitely talk about it more, but.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is,
That thing.
is someone's gotta, I mean, so this is something that has been in the city for a long time, and the whole point of her trying to hand this over to someone is for it to be continuously successful, right? So we wanna make sure that it gets adopted the right way if we're
And
gonna go for
honestly,
it.
if we don't have to edge sidewalks anymore every month, then we could do something like this and upkeep. That would be great.
But I think someone on this committee needs to like take it on and spearhead it.
Be the lead.
As like, I mean, we'll all be involved, but someone needs to spearhead all of it. And so that's, I think, what,
Yep.
Well,
And we have $5,500 in our budget right now, and I know we talked about potentially doing more banners.
Yes.
Are we, is $3,000 something that we wanna entertain? Is there any fundraising we wanna do? We need to meet with the foundation maybe? I don't know what that looks like, but it's just something to think
Do
about
we-
too, I guess.
do we need Mr. Gamble any longer for
Yeah, I
this
think-
discussion? Because he does have a commitment.
And if there are, I could just forward all the questions on. I think we're kind of chewing on this thing now.
Yeah.
But I think it would, I mean, if the committee's interested, maybe amending that list of annual projects would be a good way to kind of incorporate this, but when the committee's comfortable. So, but thank you all for your time, and have you send those to me.
So do we wanna, is there a consensus to try to?
So I think what we're saying is, yes, we want to, so maybe at the February meeting, we need to put it on the agenda to discuss who's gonna spearhead it and how we're gonna move forward with this.
Leader sort
Yeah.
of thing?
This is a pretty well-known program in the city of Manistee, so you're all in or all out is the way I look at it. It's just my advice. I love your idea. Someone's a project leader in this thing. And so, just, that's my opinion. You're either all in or all out. This is not something you want to fail if you take it on.
Right.
Yeah, and
So,
And I think it's a little more work than,
Yeah,
in coordination. It's,
yeah.
intense, I believe.
yep.
You gotta get them, there are a list of people that have given consistently for years. So you probably would recontact all the donors. There was coordinating it with the schools when they did it, and they did a good job. And then there's that weeding aspect of it, which people did volunteer to do that, but then there's the watering
I
and,
think we should have like, break it up and have like 4 coordinators or 3.
no.
well, you could have one,
person doing it all.
not just one person in charge of the project.
yeah, just in charge of
Yeah, but
planning
that's
it.
a lot.
Well, that person would delegate other aspects of it, but if you have too many people in charge, your likelihood of failure starts to. So I guess the question is for this group, what do we do now? Do you want to make a decision now? Do you want to vet this thing till next month? What does this group want to do tonight on this topic?
Maybe we should think on it until the next meeting and really mull it over to ensure that we can succeed. I mean,
and do
pros
we
and
want,
cons.
does someone here want to take that on, or could we get a volunteer? In the past, it has always been a volunteer that took that on, and then we support that. And I mean quite heavily, we'd have to support that volunteer, but it would not be taking on the whole thing.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know if that person has to come from within this group. I mean, unless there's someone that's.
Well, Mary Wilcox is very good at that stuff. She redid the whole,
Senior center stuff?
senior center last year.
Good.
And, I mean, but I helped her because I'm retired, and when she needed me, she just picked me up and,
Well,
Do we know how, I know people have said this in the past where they say, our segment, or whatever, we weeded our segment, like, how do they get that? Does anybody know?
I think they went away with that,
Okay.
but I could be completely wrong. I know at one time, people adopted certain sections and that's what they weeded. I
think so.
thought, I think, and I could be wrong, I think that they've gone away from that and just any volunteers, they go to a section that they see that needs weeding.
Does this go from
I
to 8th?
do know some volunteers, no, it doesn't go all the way to
Fourth.
anymore.
Fourth to
River.
Okay.
And, because the reason I asked that is because, there could be a way for us to really get our name out there
Well,
to say, in an event where, say, an area needed to be weeded, and we had like some sort of notice, like an NRBC notice, section 6 needs to be weeded.
Yep.
Is there any volunteers or some, it's just a way that we could kind of help
And
always
I-
make that look good.
I do think this is something in terms of like a project leader and stuff to keep within our group. Like the one thing I've noticed since I've been on this, and it's not been very long, but I just feel like we don't have a lot of things that we actually can affect change with. I mean, we can talk about making a recommendation to an ordinance committee to take to city council, et cetera, but we don't actually have a lot of like grit in things that we can actually affect change with within the community. This would be one of those things.
This is a hands-on thing that we could do. We don't have to wait 3 months to get an answer on if we can do it,
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
I agree.
And so I do think in terms of, I don't want to be the project leader. I got, what do I have? Kids Day. I got Kids Day. Just kidding.
It's got spring cleanup.
I mean, I'm willing to help in any which way, shape, or form. I'm hoping someone else will step up, I guess. If not, we'll figure it out. But I do think it's something where we really can affect change within the community. And when people say, well, what is the NRBC doing? Why do we even have that? What are they doing for our city? This is a good, this is a thing, this is a really solid thing that we can say we're doing. So, and maybe, again, Mary Kay hopefully will be here next month and we'll have a full commission and it could be a better discussion. I would be willing to reach out to Kendra as well, just to ask some questions and get some more information before the February meeting.
Yeah, and I think she's totally open for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this email provides a lot of information, but I could say, what are the negatives? What are the downfalls? What do we need to know going into this, especially late in the game? It's spring's around the corner, so.
I think that's another reason where we'll probably want to have a little bit more of a conversation about it next
Yeah.
meeting or a work session specifically on it.
And understand that if this project is greenlit because it's a banner event for this group, you're gonna be, there's gonna be a lot of, your resources are gonna have to head that direction really quickly.
Yeah.
Because of what we just said, I mean, you're like 3-4 months out, you gotta,
Which are going to
We're gonna-
conflict with the spring cleanup planning too.
Okay. So I will reach out to Kendra before the next meeting. And just ask some questions and ask like, what don't we know? What do we need to know that we don't know? And I guess I can't share that in an email with everyone before the meeting.
There's just gonna be discussion, so I mean, you can forward.
Okay.
yeah, there could, be just,
Yeah,
you
it
can't-
can't be discussion with, okay. So I could do that. I will share whatever feedback she gives before the meeting, so everyone has had time to look it over,
That sounds
process it, think about it, and then we can move forward with better discussion and decision in February.
Sounds good. Anything else on Blossom Boulevard? Right, update from Toby, Mr. Patient. Thank you.
Got like a 4-hour presentation. You guys, I mean, I'm on overtime now, and the chief, he always likes overtime. He always gives me, yeah. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Toby, and I was hired probably at the end of August.
yeah.
So I work directly for the police department, and I do handle all the blight here in town. I can go through the process of how we are doing it now, if you'd like to understand that, or I can just give you the numbers of where we're at, and how long you want to be here.
Give us the numbers.
I'll give you the numbers. So basically, we enter stuff into the city's software program, which is BSNA. So everything is filtered through BSNA. So the report that I give to the chief shows us now that we've had 80 contacts. So within a contact, basically, we're going out and we are identifying blight by either see, click, fix, complaints from citizens, complaints from commissioners, or 90% is my drive-by. So I am out and about in the town, and if you see that old retired police cruiser going around the block more than once, you probably know there's a problem. And I'm identifying those problems. So what we do then is I'll take that address back, and we'll enter that into BSNA. If there's been any previous work done, say any officer has stopped by in the past or anything has been done, I will go directly to citations. If not, I'll send out a letter. So the letter gives them 7 days to remedy the situation. So we've had 80 contacts
Since August.
since August, yes, yep. 40 of those have turned into citations. So there's 40 people on that list that have just ignored the letter completely. They have just decided that they're not gonna do anything about it. And I think a lot of that comes with education. I don't think they understand that the city is now taking a stand on this. I think a lot of letters used to go out before, never followed up on. So now they're followed up on. So when they turn into a citation, things get a little bit more serious. That's when I start getting phone calls, emails, and people want action. So of those people, about 13 of them have remedied the situation. If I write a citation, they remedy the situation, I basically go in and cancel the citation. I give them the opportunity to make it right. The city isn't here just to try to write a ticket to everybody. We are here to clean up the city, and that's the end goal. So that's why I will go back in, I will cancel the citation, and then we'll just move forward. So that's what we've done. 9 of those cases have gone to court now, and you talked a lot about that earlier. You have to remember, a lot of what I deal with are long-term rentals. A big majority of what I see out there is long-term rentals. I have not yet had an occasion where somebody has said they can't afford it or they can't do it. Mm-hmm. Nobody has said to me that. Most of the time, it's an absentee landlord that doesn't care. I go after the homeowner. I do not go after the renter. The city 90% of the time doesn't know who the renter is. The chief has said that I do not make contact. It's a safety issue. I'm going just like this. I'm not carrying or anything like that. So I do not actually make contact other than through the letter. And then they are given every opportunity to contact me back. So a lot of this, I don't want you to all waste your time and think that, we need to set up these funds to help people. I haven't seen that yet. And believe me, when I do see it, we will find any way, shape, or form to help that person. But I have not, since the end of August, been in that situation yet where somebody has said, I just can't afford to do it.
So you don't think that the, having a requirement for them to reach, or not a requirement, but an option to reach out for assistance would?
I haven't seen it yet. Nobody has said that to me. And everybody that I've talked to is, it's basically, like I said, landlords that are not existent in this city.
So it doesn't mean that they can't afford it, but their tenant may not be able to afford it.
Could be the rental.
And then they're
But
not
ultimately-
follow up on it.
Correct.
Ultimately, it's a homeowner's responsibility.
Right.
And when we say we're gonna go in and clean, when the court gives us that abatement right to go in and remedy the situation, it's going on the tax roll. And when it goes on the tax roll, it's going to the homeowner.
Got it.
So that fight can't be between us and the renter.
What do you see as improving that? As far as actually addressing the
Well,
problem?
I think, I can just say that on the 19th of December, I had 4 properties that went to court, all with the same landlord. That kind of stuff continues to happen, it's gonna sink in.
Yeah.
It's gonna sink in that the city's serious, we're not backing down, we're following through, and you're gonna get cited.
What were the citations, the 40? What is the predominant blight factor that you're citing?
Just joke.
Just like junk in the yard, is it, or what kind of?
Very few abandoned cars. Usually the police officers will handle any abandoned cars. I may cite them for that, but ultimately that, if it's gonna be towed out of there or something that, you know.
Is it leaving stuff as they're moving out, or is it that they just decided that
There's
they
some of
don't
that.
want the mattress anymore?
There's some of all what you're saying, yes.
Well, this is,
It's
but this is a
that-
120-day process, right? Or is it 90-day?
There's, like I said, there's a lot of what I just did in court. You know, with that one landlord, there's 4 cases that I had started in 1st of September.
So these
So
are,
now-
these aren't like,
Ongoing.
yeah, these aren't the houses that are, they have the mattress out there for this week. Yeah, these are the ones that are months, right?
Right, the ones that have the mattresses out there for this week, usually, if it sits there, you know, if it's out by the road and we know it's big, I mean, the city allows you to put one, and I told the court system that, the city, in your tax bill, you're allowed to put one large item out a week or a month. So if you put that thing out there, if you start putting those out there every month, you can clean up, guess what? You can clean up your yard for free. Just do it.
I think it's important to note that ultimately, when you talk about teeth, it ultimately falls on what the magistrate or judge rules. What they rule is it. So we can have an ordinance that names whatever penalty we want, but the judge and or magistrate have the ultimate say.
Yeah, I think it's about putting teeth into the point all the way up until the court, right? Of trying to get some way, and right now, you know, introducing Toby's been the biggest teeth that have been, you know, introduced into the process so far.
Right, and you know, if you see this, so there's been 40 citations, only 9 cases have gone to court. None of them are cleaned up, closed,
Yep.
you know, so some of them have paid their fine. Some just go and pay their fine, but I still watch them.
Right.
It better be cleaned up, because paying your fine does not get you out of the situation. Paying your fine only settles the default of the court.
That's crazy.
So they are still on my hit list to watch. And there's a lot of repeat offenders. I will cite them. They will pay their fine or they won't. That's up to the court. That's out of our hands. They will clean up. And 3 weeks later, there's more drunk out.
And they're
We
back
can
on the
start that
list.
process all over. And there's several that we've done that with.
Is there anything, we've talked about this several times, but like repeat offender things that you,
The city has, you know, a first offense of $250 fine, second offense is $500.
oh, that's already in there.
But the judge has to, and the magistrate have to agree to that. Ultimately, they set it. If they believe there's a hardship, they may lower that. Because when I'm in court, they will ask the person, you know, what do you make a month? How much do you pay? So a lot of times, those fines will go down.
Mhm.
And ultimately, we're just looking for it to clean up. That's all. We're not making a ton of money off fines, but it's bringing it to the forefront. And they have to go all it out and pay. Suddenly, things change. And we've had a lot of successes. Sorry, I'm not a tech guy. You're not going to see what I've got some pictures. I'd be glad to show you black and white pictures that we've taken, but we've had a ton of successes so far, where people realize the city's serious, and now have somebody doing it,
Yeah.
and now have somebody that doesn't let me slide, and we're gonna get it cleaned up.
Yeah,
Same thing from the building official too, what's his name?
Yes.
Jerry.
Jerry, yeah.
Yeah. The biggest difference is that we've tried this with our police officers before, and they did the best they can, but they can't keep the constant pressure on because they work 12-hour shifts and we asked them to do so many other things. And the feedback we were getting from our elected officials was that they weren't happy with the results. So having a part-time employee allows you to have more consistent pressure, more continuity. And again, I think I heard feedback at the end of summer, well, the light's worse than it ever was. I challenge you to jump my pickup truck on lunch break and we'll drive around. I can show you that that's not a true statement. So I think we're going in the right direction. It's just a matter of, you know, taking a look at it every year. What are we doing? What can we do better? What are some successes? What are we seeing? So those conversations are important.
And so we kind of tackled one side of it so far, but what about like structure, blight? You said most of that was,
That's all Jerry.
oh, okay, that's
the
none of,
official side,
okay,
correct.
I gotcha, okay.
So Jerry and I work very closely together. In fact, some of this winter, I didn't think blight was gonna continue on through the winter, but it is. Some of my time now is helping with short-term rentals and doing some of those inspections. But anytime I'm out and I identify a blight house that's not junk, it's just falling down, Jerry knows about it. We are in contact every day that I'm here. So we work very well together. We're both old retired supervisors or what we are, so.
And we're gonna have a dozen, what was it, 12, 14 from the chill grant that, that should address some of that too, which will help.
Hopefully, I don't
Well,
know the
and-
addresses, but
Well, I mentioned before, we've never had more resources, probably since I've been a police officer 20 years ago here. You have the chill grant, you have blight enforcement, you have other things, partnering with the land bank. We had a program where we go to residents, say, hey, you're kind of stuck with this house, here's a strategy to help you tear it down. All our spring pickup and our garbage stuff. We have so many resources for our city residents to take advantage of. We've never had more. And talking about time, the last house that the police department facilitated tearing down was the house on 12th Street. It took 7 years to tear it down. If we stayed after it, it probably would have taken just over a year. So these things don't, you get a citation, take them to court, they get a 45-day extension, they come and tell the judge this, and 60 more days, and then, so when it comes down to tearing down structures or cleaning up blight through a court order, one of the misconceptions, it takes time, there's due process involved, it costs money. And so, when we talk about, we just want the problem taken care of, we just want compliance because we know how much it's gonna cost the taxpayer to clean up their neighbor's garbage. We're trying to avoid that scenario, but as you're hearing, sometimes it's unavoidable.
Well, I just appreciate that, since August alone, you've made 80 contacts.
Do you work full-time or part-time or?
20 hours, that's all he'll give me. Keep saying I'm a 40-hour guy, but I just won't budge.
And a tenth of those have gone to court, so it's,
Yeah.
in that short period of time that you've been here,
80 homes.
you're affecting change.
Had some-
That's what's important,
had
so,
some-
yeah.
Some sort of contact with
Yep.
us, no. And all joking aside, I've never had more support from somebody before. The chief has been great in supporting me and even, bought me a shirt.
Wow.
So it's.
You just
yeah,
made him buy
I'm
7
just
more
saying,
shirts.
Yeah, huge support from your police department that want to see this be successful as well.
Right.
And that's encouraging for me. Just working with the guys, when we go out and deliver tickets, I'm always with an officer. So it's again, a safety issue because we do deliver tickets to the home, no matter whether it's rented or the owner is taped to the door of every ticket. And then it's mailed to the home owner. So it's posted in 2 spots. So there's quite a process. It takes a while, but I do see change. I like to drive around now and see some of the houses. And then there's other ones that I just don't get, but.
It's gonna take more time.
Yep, it takes time.
You've got the right
Yep.
attitude, is that you're following the rules and making it the same for everybody and they're complying and those that don't, you just can't do anything about.
Right, and, we have, the city has bought Jerry and myself both tablets now, so when we're out in the field, we can actually bring out the BSNA online.
Good.
So we know the history, we can download the pictures now into the software program, so that's worked out really well that everybody can see. So it's all public information.
Right.
And we just, like I said, I don't single anybody out. Have blight, I don't care who you are.
That's right.
And, that's,
Very good.
and if you clean it up, I'll make it go away,
Yeah.
because that's ultimately what we want. You know, but if you're gonna fight us in court, so far the court's been very good with us. There's been some hiccups and there's been some things that we're working through, but they have never had the city present them 40 citations for blight before. So they're like, whoa, what's going on here? Well, this is new and the city's taking a hard stance on it, you know? So it's new to them and it's new to have follow through and I think it's going well, I do.
Sounds like
Maybe
it.
that'll make the court be more aggressive on it, so they don't have to go through 40
I'm
of
hoping
them.
so, yes, I'm hoping so. I hope that in that education is not only is the city serious, but so is the court system.
Yeah,
And the word
Once
gets out.
Once that education gets out, that together, we're trying to clean up this town, we're not trying to hurt people.
yeah, it's better that there's 40 of them rather than 3, because it look like it's singling them out or whatever.
Together, we're trying to clean up the town, and I think once people understand that and know that, you'll see a lot less of it.
That's
The
great.
reality is it's a quality of life issue, and we're setting standards of what is acceptable. And those have been here 20-plus years. You know, after the 2008 housing market crashed, we used to have a building official, no more. Got rid of zoning in-house. All these services we got rid of, we had to for budget constraints. And now we're able to bring those people back in to help shaping the community expectations of what's allowable and what's not allowable anymore. And we haven't had that in 15 years. And so we've been pretty aggressive in the last 4 years for enforcement, but also provided resources as well. But like I said, and it wasn't very popular, like, Chief, you gotta fix it. It's not gonna happen next year. This takes time. It's taken 20, 30 years to get here. It's gonna take time and vision
Yep.
to keep moving the ball forward, but you have to set what is acceptable in these communities from a city standpoint, because it's all about quality of life.
And the landlords are
Thank you.
finding out.
Yeah.
If you ever have any questions, seriously, feel free to call me.
Thanks, Toby.
If you ever want me to pay special attention to the addresses, that's fine. Get from C-Click Fix, I get it from everywhere, so it's fine. Shoot me an email, call me, whatever. I'm out there, and that cruiser will circle the block.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I think you should get 25 hours a week.
And 2 shirts.
Talk to the chief.
And 2 shirts.
He's got to go on your city email. He has a city email.
Yeah.
But hey, even if you put on the C-Click Fix,
Yeah.
they'll go right to them too, so.
Most of the time when something comes in C-Click Fix, he's already, but that's a great mechanism for city residents, but he's usually on top of it before that.
All right, we're getting pretty long here, but
Yep.
budget update, we kind of talked about this a little bit. You know, maybe in the future, you know, Blossom Boulevard is a budget expense right now. I don't know if this money that's in their account would just transfer to us. I would hope, you know, would go if we proceed with that. But other than the banners, that was the only thing that I guess has been brought up as an expense. And I know we're just now starting the spring cleanup conversations. And I guess on that note, we can move on to the spring cleanup if there really is any update, but probably
Not
not.
yet.
Okay.
What's
but
the best way to contact, both of them?
I'd probably say to start with an email.
Emails?
Yeah, I sent, did you see that email
Yeah.
I sent? Okay.
Yep. I just wanted to check with you.
Everybody's probably off on the holidays and whatnot, so, yeah, the last year, we met a couple times with, actually, I can give you this. This is AJ's card with Republic.
Okay.
But we set up a couple meetings with myself, DPW director, city manager, and AJ to try to plan it.
Okay.
And I don't know what their recycling event is this year, but
Is it on the same weekend or close to it?
We're not sure.
I'm not sure. Yeah, that's all what Kayla's gonna plan and bring to us.
I do think, we talked about this last year with what was it, the paint and the batteries or something like that? We had a lot of people asking about that. If we know ahead of time when the one's gonna be out at the
road commission, we should have flyers on that so that we can hand those out as well.
Oh, that'd be nice, yeah, even
Because I want to say it was like 3 weeks later or something like that, but we had a lot of people who, when they came through, were asking, are you also taking this stuff? That's what.
have other details, that'd be good. That's a good idea.
I was also gonna ask the chief, you might know a little bit more. So there is a explosive technician guy in Grayling, and he used to get a hold of different townships and cities and have like an explosive recycling day, such as like fireworks, old ammunition, stuff like that.
I think that'd be great, right outside the city limits. We can have that in the county somewhere. No, are you talking about an explosive person being from MSP?
Yeah, he's from MSP. It's Scott Reynolds,
Okay.
technician.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him.
Okay. So I didn't know if that was something that we wanted to look into as well.
We could, I mean, I don't know, I don't know. I honestly don't know. We've never offered it before.
Right.
But I can certainly reach out to him, just figure out pros and cons and what it would take, and we can make informed decisions, but that's interesting.
Like-
Disposable ammunition, like.
Yeah,
used?
so, yeah, like any like old ammunition, you know, like it gets corrosive after so long. And
Yeah,
we have
and-
a lot of hunters in the
Yeah.
area, so.
And so they were turning those into police departments, but MSP, who's a resource, stopped taking those.
Right.
I think they're taking them again. Let me get you some answers on that.
Okay.
How's that sound?
That sounds good.
Glad you never see that as a jump light, Toby.
Maybe.
No, it's a bad day when someone brings in and say, hey, I found a hand grenade in my basement, because there's a lot of things that have to happen.
We had that.
Take it back to your basement.
I just want to mention too, in terms of the money that is being held at the Community Foundation for Blossom Boulevard, I'm going to reach out to Laura Heinzelman at the Community Foundation, because the Community Foundation houses money for like nonprofits and like scholarships and things like that. If we're taking over,
Yeah,
if the city is taking over Blossom Boulevard, I don't know if they would continue to house money and take in donations for that, so
Probably not.
I
that
don't know
would
if they
be,
continue to be the fiduciary for that or not.
and that's what I'm gonna reach out to
Okay,
Laura about.
perfect.
And then, yeah, and then when I email Kendra, I'll also ask her, like, who have your donors been in the past? Because we obviously need to know that as well. So, just wanted to mention that.
Awesome. Public comment? Okay, go to the order.
Nothing.
Kayla? Nothing.
Nothing.
Chief? All right, take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Kathy's motion. Got
Kathy.
it.